Apple is about to make the iPhone thicker, heavier, and move the camera to the corner of your screen. And somehow, that's the least interesting part of what's coming. The iPhone 18 Pro won't arrive until September 2026. That's just 8 months away. But we already know more about this phone than Apple probably wants us to. And buried in these leaks is something more important than specs. It's a pattern. A shift in how Apple thinks about the iPhone's future. Because while everyone's focused on the camera moving to the left side of the screen, they're missing what that camera is making room for. Let's break down what's actually happening here. First, the design. The iPhone 18 Pro is getting thicker. For the second year in a row. It's also becoming the heaviest iPhone ever made. The Pro Max model is projected to hit 243 grams. That's 10 grams heavier than your current iPhone, and it breaks the record set by the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Apple's sticking with aluminum instead of going back to titanium. And that tells you something right there. They know the weight is already pushing limits. The back of the phone is changing too. Right now, iPhones have this two-tone look where the glass and metal don't quite match. The 18 Pro blends them together. Apple's reportedly moving away from the industrial look, making it friendlier. They're testing 3 colors internally: deep red, light brown, and bright purple. Only one will launch. Classic Apple strategy. Now here's where it gets strange. The dynamic island is disappearing. After just 4 years, it's being replaced by a single hole punch camera. In the top left corner, not the center, the left. Face ID isn't going away. It's moving fully under the display using something called spliced micro-transparent glass. Basically, infrared can pass through the screen without distortion. The front camera is jumping to 24 megapixels. That sensor is bigger, and it needs space. But here's the thing. This left corner camera looks like every Android phone from 2019, and Apple doesn't copy Android design language. Not like this, so either we're missing part of the story, or Apple has a software trick coming that we haven't seen yet. Remember, we thought the iPhone 14 Pro would have a pill and hole cutout. Then Apple revealed the dynamic island software overlay, and suddenly it felt like Apple again. Expect something similar here. The main camera is getting a variable aperture lens. That's a feature from professional DSLRs. You'll manually control how much light hits the sensor, adjust depth of field in real time, make motion look more natural in video. And in low light, instead of relying on software compensation, you just open the aperture. The sensor itself is changing too, a new 3-layer design, ironically made by Samsung. It increases responsiveness, reduces noise, and expands dynamic range. But while the main camera is getting more complex, another part is getting simpler. The camera control button. That pressure-sensitive, touch-sensitive button on the iPhone 16 Pro? Apple's removing all that. On the 18 Pro, it's just a button. Click to take a photo, click to launch the camera, that's it. Why? Usage data, people press the button. But they didn't use the fancy features, so Apple's cutting costs there and reallocating resources. Here's where Apple's actual strategy becomes visible. The iPhone 18 Pro is becoming a full satellite phone. Right now, you can send emergency SOS over satellite. You can text. Apple keeps saying these features are free for 2 years. They extended that deadline, then extended it again. They've been waiting to charge for something bigger. Full satellite internet. With the 18 Pro, your iPhone becomes an off-grid communicator. Web browsing, apps, everything. No cell towers required. And yes, this will be a monthly subscription. Apple loves services. This is a service that makes sense in rural areas, dead zones, and places where traditional internet infrastructure doesn't exist. But it also does something else. It makes the iPhone less dependent on carriers. And that shift has implications. Apple's also rolling out their C2 modem. The current C1 modem only supports sub-6 GHz 5G. The slower kind. That's fine for base models, but it's not acceptable for Pro devices. The C2 adds millimeter wave 5G. The ultra-fast kind. It exceeds Qualcomm's performance and makes cellular usage more efficient. This is Apple finally cutting the cord with Qualcomm entirely. They've been working toward this for years. Buying Intel's modem division, building their own chips, and now they're ready. Between satellite internet and their own 5G modem, Apple is reducing reliance on 2 massive external dependencies, Qualcomm and traditional carriers. That's not just a tech upgrade, that's a business model shift. Every leak about the A20 chip sounds the same. This is going to be massive. It's Apple's first 2-nanometer silicon, more transistors in less space. performance up 15%, efficiency up 30%. Those are generational leap numbers. But here's the part that matters for AI. Apple's using a new manufacturing process that moves the RAM closer to the processor. That makes on-device AI faster. Responses happen in milliseconds instead of fractions of a second. This is Apple's answer to the AI arms race. They fell behind. Everyone noticed. Apple Intelligence launched to mixed reviews. The A20 is their response. And if the performance claims hold up, this could be Apple's M1 moment for the iPhone. Not just an upgrade, a reset. Now, the release schedule. This is where Apple's priorities become undeniable. September 2026, iPhone 18 Pro, Pro Max, and the new Ultra Foldable launch. March 2027, 6 months later, the base iPhone 18, iPhone Air 2, and a budget iPhone 18e arrive. Apple has never done this before. Why split the release? Because behavior is predictable. Millions of people expect a new iPhone in September. If there's no affordable option available and the holidays are coming, what do? They spend more. They buy the Pro. Apple's front-loading the expensive models when demand is highest. Then 6 months later, they release the budget options when the urgency has passed. It's a clever psychological play, and it works because the base iPhone 18 is rumored to be almost identical to the iPhone 17. New chip, minor tweaks, nothing major. Why would Apple market that in September when they can push people toward the Pro instead? Let's zoom out. The iPhone is getting thicker to fit bigger batteries. The chip is getting more efficient to extend battery life even further. The modem is improving efficiency. The satellite feature reduces dependence on infrastructure. See the pattern? Apple is solving for longevity and independence. They want iPhones that last all day under heavy AI use. They want iPhones that work anywhere, regardless of carrier coverage. They want users to feel like their phone is a complete, self-sufficient tool, and they're willing to make the phone heavier and thicker to get there. That's a trade-off. Some people will hate it. But Apple's betting that performance and capability matter more than thinness. And honestly, they're probably right. Here's the thing no one's saying. These features, satellite internet, advanced AI processing, variable aperture cameras, they're not for everyone. They're for people who can afford the Pro models. The split release strategy makes that even clearer. The advanced tech launches first, at a premium. Then months later, the budget models arrive with last year's features. Apple's creating a bigger gap between Pro and base models than ever before. And that gap isn't just about specs. It's about access. Access to cutting-edge AI. Access to off-grid connectivity. Access to Pro-level camera control. This isn't new, but it's accelerating. If the iPhone 18 Pro delivers on these promises, the smartphone landscape shifts in 3 major ways over the next few years. For everyday users, battery anxiety becomes less common, as the combination of thicker designs and more efficient chips finally solves the all-day usage problem that's plagued smartphones for years. The phrase "no signal" starts disappearing from your vocabulary as satellite connectivity fills in the gaps that traditional carriers never could. And smartphone photography takes another massive leap toward DSLR territory, giving more people access to pro-level tools without needing to carry dedicated cameras. On-device AI transitions from being a neat gimmick to something that's actually useful in your daily workflow, processing requests in milliseconds rather than sending everything to the cloud. But this shift creates winners and losers across the industry. People in rural areas finally get reliable connectivity options that don't depend on whether a cell tower happens to be nearby. Power users who've been waiting for pro-level camera tools in a pocketable device finally get what they've been asking for. And Apple's services division adds another recurring revenue stream through satellite subscriptions, strengthening their shift away from being just a hardware company. On the flip side, budget-conscious buyers discover they have fewer options when September rolls around, forcing them to either wait 6 months or spend significantly more than they planned. Qualcomm loses another major customer as Apple completes their transition to in-house modems, and traditional carriers lose some of their leverage over Apple as satellite becomes a genuine alternative to cellular networks. The gap between what a Pro iPhone can do and what a base model offers is going to feel wider than it's ever been, and that gap isn't closing anytime soon. The iPhone 18 Pro isn't just a spec bump. It's Apple restructuring what a flagship phone can do and who gets access to those capabilities first. Thicker, heavier, more expensive, more capable, and launching 6 months before the affordable version. That's not a leak. That's a signal. Apple isn't trying to make the iPhone for everyone anymore. They're making the best iPhone for people who will pay for the best. And in 2026, the gap between those two things is going to feel wider than ever. If you want to understand where tech is heading before it becomes normal, subscribe to Tech Fleet, because by the time everyone's talking about it, you'll already know what it means.